Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Liquid Lunch Project. I am Matthew R. Meehan alongside my partner, the Professor Luigi Rosabianca. What's on tap today, Lou?
Matt, I know how much you love my analogies, and I think I've got another analogy for us for today's guest. Building a small business is like building a corn maze, right? You keep putting rows and rows and columns, and then all of a sudden, you can't even exit it because you've created such a complex corn maze. So today, to simplify it, we've got Darryl Bates-Brownsword, who is the expert in managing corn mazes of business and exit strategies. So, Darryl, welcome to the podcast. Help
Thanks,
the audience
guys.
understand how they can find their way through these 8-foot corn stalks.
I've never thought of it that way, so I'll be on my feet thinking through and working with the analogy along the way. So let's jump in and see how I go.
So, how do you start in consulting with clients in developing not just a exit strategy, but the appropriate exit strategy for that business owner?
Yeah. Well, the first thing is to understand what their goals and aspirations are, because every business owner's got some fantasy goals and ideas of how they'd like to exit their business, and based on what they've seen with their mate down their pub, because he sold his business for X amount of dollars or pounds, and my business is better than his, so therefore my business is worth more than that, right? So we've got to start with going, what's the business worth to you? Because one of the starting points is every business owner thinks their business is worth a number. So let's start with a valuation, and something. If it's a long way before they actually want to exit, we can do a valuation. But something's a lot more important than a valuation is understanding the valuation potential of the business. So let's see what the business is worth now in its current state. Let's identify the state of play of the business with that snapshot and see where it is. And just given where the business is at the moment and the risk profile of the owners and where they are, let's do an assessment of what the valuation potential is of that business, and just to see if we're in the ballpark and to see how those numbers line up with their exit expectations and their fantasy number. Because if they're too far apart, we need to have some hard conversations and go, that's just not possible in terms of the number or the time frame you're dreaming, or you're going to have to readjust your expectations one way in terms of time or valuation. So we'll start with some hard facts. From there, we can then just go, okay, so when you exit, what is it you want to achieve? What do you want to go on to once you exit this business? Are you going to sit down and wind down? Are you going to go and start something else? What we know is that entrepreneurs, when they say things like, well, I'm just going to go and sit on the beach and drink pina coladas, my response to after that is, great, that sounds fantastic. Oh, and what are you going to do in the next week? Because they'll get bored out of their brain real quick. And entrepreneurs are visionary people. They need to keep doing something. They need an exit vision of what they're going to move on to once they exit their business. Once they've got a picture, they've got a purpose of what they're moving to next, then they can, they're likely to make it happen. So they're the two primary components. I talk about going, your business, we need to get your business so the business will be exit ready when you're ready to exit and in a position to negotiate a deal that's going to work for you. So the numbers, so they're the three, the concepts that we sort of got to pull into play and get some equilibrium around.
I like that. I can't tell you how many business owners we've worked with over the years that they sell their business and then they get in trouble after about a week or a month, and they get in trouble with their wives because entrepreneurs, they fix things, right? So after they're bored and they're tired of sitting home drinking the pina coladas on the beach, they start looking around their house and they go to fix the sink and they don't know how to do that right. So they got to do it again. And next thing you know, they're up their wife's butt about fixing everything because they have no vision. It's so important. People don't realize that.
or just in the way, because their wife or their partner's used to having that space and them chuffing off to work every day. And then they come home. I saw it with my dad, and he was no entrepreneur. Just when he retired, mum's going, get out of my way. Like, yeah, go off and do something. To the state now where he goes off to work 5 days a week, half days, and he's 88. And they've got a fantastic relationship. They're having the time of their lives. They've just bought a brand new car, but they've got purpose and vision in their lives, and their energy, and that keeps them mentally alert and physically strong as well. And that is the principle I think applies to business owners. As soon as they don't have a purpose of what they're going to do next, they've got nothing to live for.
Exactly. There's no purpose, right? But then there's also the other side of the equation. Like you said before, somebody's at the pub, they're drinking a couple pints with their buddies, and they think that they're going to sell their business for, 10, 20, $30 million. Meanwhile, they're in a totally different industry, and their expectations aren't reality. So how do you set them on the right path by having that hard conversation?
You've Firstly, you got to have the courage to have the hard conversation with your client or your potential client. But what I've learned about consulting to SME business owners over the years is they're used to people agreeing with them and palling up to them. When you challenge them, you're adding value, because no one in their business adds value to them and no one challenges them. So and that's why we do that first stage one report, is we go, well, look, you can't argue with the facts. I know your feelings are you want to sell your business for 10 mil or what have you, but okay, so let's have a look how businesses are valued. So this report we produce shows them all the risks in their business. Totally. And so it's an education process. So we go, here's how businesses are valued. Here's how that applies to your business. We're looking at it through a buyer's lens, and here's how it adds up. And they all go, well, but your multiplier is only 5, and I reckon it's worth 7. And we go, great. Well, what do you base that on? Well, my mate down the pub sold his for 7. Why? What was it about his business that made his business more attractive to be acquired than yours? Because sometimes there is a bit of luck. I get that. And sometimes you get your timing right. You can't plan for that. And sometimes a strategic buyer will come along at the right time and they'll go, I want that business because you've built something. But then it gives us the opportunity to say to them, okay, so here's all the things that you need to do that can make your business more attractive. Because if I pulled you out of that business tomorrow, yes, you're a fantastic salesperson. If you sell the business to me, my fantastic salesperson is now gone. So you've just taken a whole lot of value out of the business. So we need to show them where the value is in the business, how buyers see value and how buyers measure value. What are the tangible assets? What are the intangible assets? And how to build them, and where the value comes from.
I think most people don't realize that 80% of a company's value is made up by the intangible assets.
Yeah, it's one of the things I say to owners. I go, look, if you're starting to think about exiting your business, you got to move, because people have been telling you for years that you've got to grow the profit, grow the profit, and that's great. And I go, you got to make the mindset shift from profit growth to asset growth. And they go, well, how do I do that? And I go, well, the first thing you got to do is get a valuation on your business, so you've got an idea of what the assets are in the business, what your asset toolkit is, your starting point. And now, instead, because profit is only half of the equation of the evaluation, the other half is you multiplying that profit by something. And you can tweak your profit a bit and you'll improve your valuation. Great. But there's a whole other side to the equation, which is a multiplier. And if you add 1 to that multiplier, you've just made a far greater difference than you will by tweaking your profit a bit. If you understand what the things are that influence the multiplier, which are mostly intangible assets, and all the risks that a buyer sees, every time they see a risk, that multiple comes down and down and down. So we'll put that in the report and we go, here's all the risks, here's all the opportunities. Right, now we've got a plan to work with. It's not based on emotion. It's based on facts and logics. And you can tell me you want 7 and tell me it's worth 7. But when a buyer doesn't care what you think it's worth. They only care what they think it's worth. And if you're serious about exiting the business, you're serious about getting out on your terms. And if you're serious about this goal of getting that number, then you've got some work to do. I'm sorry, I'm just the messenger, is kind of the message.
Listen, we see it all the time. You have somebody that was a really great candle maker and he made all the candles and then he hired a couple people, but everything's in his head. It's not even on paper. There's no standard operating procedures, right? He's the number one salesman in the company as well. He's doing the finances. Once he's gone, that's not a business anymore.
Exactly.
It's not something that I'm going to invest in or any investor is going to invest in. So as you're growing your business and building your business, you should always think in your head that this business needs to be sellable at the time somebody comes and I can hand over all the documentation to them. At any point in time, you should always be ready on that business.
You're absolutely right. And that's when I start to have the conversation with business owners. I go, do you really want to sell this business? Because if you do, there's some challenges you have to face. Because at the moment, it's a really good lifestyle business. It earns you good money, but it's not sellable. It's just a really good income stream. And it's you, and you've got 9, 10, or even 15 or 20 helpers. But it's just you with a whole lot of helpers, and you've leveraged them really well. So that's a beautiful model you got. And the other angle that it could be is there's an author over here in the UK that I know well, and he goes, look, I'm an ambitious lifestyle business owner. He said, I really want to get the balance right. And my objective is to build the business and run it by remote control. I just want to be the chairman of that business. I don't want to sell it. I know there's lots of risks of being an absentee business owner. So I'm not going to be an absentee business owner. I'm just going to be the chairman of the business. I'm going to guide, I'm going to mentor, I'm going to keep the vision, I'm going to manage the culture, and I'm going to coach, and I'm not going to play. But that's the way I manage my business. And I know I'm not building valuation, but gee, I'm getting good income from it year in, year out. I've got a great lifestyle and I'm investing outside of my business. He goes, why do I have to sell it? I said, you don't, but that's what an exit vision is. You know exactly what you want. You're crystal clear. Everyone else is just going, I want to sell it or I expect to sell it. And then they get hit by a truck and there's nothing left.
Yeah. So I think that brings up a good point, right? I think one of the things I believe you probably do and we do over here is everybody goes, okay, so how do we build the valuation? How do we build the assets? That's not the first step. The first step is with us anyway to protect what you already have, right?
Yep, absolutely.
The T's are crossed, the I's are dotted. And then once we protect what we have, then we can worry about building. And then we can have a conversation about selling every 90 days or so, right? To see if you really
protecting it is, I go, look, let's identify what you've got and then we can protect what you've already built. And that way it's kind of like putting a chock behind the wheel so you don't roll backwards. And when you protect it, I say it's like building a solid foundation. If you build a good foundation for a house, then you can build on top of it and it won't sink. So let's protect what we've got. Let's eliminate all the risks first so we can be sure that at least you'll get the standard industry valuation for what businesses in your industry get. Let's protect what you've got. It's absolutely great advice there, Matt, that all business owners should be doing. I don't think I've been into a business yet that's had a good shareholder agreement.
Yeah. Listen, it's one of those things nobody thinks about because they're too busy doing business.
Exactly.
Right? Or as business owners, especially here in the US, we don't think protect. We think drive, go,
Yeah.
Grow at all costs. Let's go.
Yeah, it's important, but it's not urgent. I'll get around to it one day. We'll be right.
Yeah.
I hope.
So what are some common mistakes? One or two of the most common mistakes you see people that want to sell their business always do?
The common mistakes is overvaluing what it's worth to someone else. They always believe it's worth, as you say, 10 mil when it's worth about 3 at best. Mm-hmm. Getting too involved in the business, being the business is too dependent upon the owners. So the owners are always proud that they're the best salesperson in the business, or they're the best, depending on the industry, best, technician, which is, great. It feeds their ego, but it's not increasing the valuation of the business. Another one is really screwing on costs. So one of the thoughts I have is that you're not going to grow your way through cost cutting. You know, you don't want to overpay for stuff, but scrimping on cost and especially wages is going to be detrimental to the culture of the organization. So there's something you don't want to, you really want to pay positive attention to the culture and consciously build the culture of the business, because that can pay dividends big time. Big question I get all the time, I bet you guys get this question too, is look, Darryl, this would be a really good business, but you just can't find good help. Yeah,
Yes.
we can't find good people. And I said, yeah, funny that, because all the people I'm talking to are telling me that they can't find good leaders. Well, what's going on here, do you think? Do you think there's some sort of correlation? So micromanaging and being control freaks, which is the natural tendency of business owners, I think is another one of the big mistakes.
I think that in order for a successful business to run, you need three things. You need clients, number one. Okay,
Yeah.
you need people, and you need money, right? It really comes down to those three things, right, for a successful business. And one conversation that we actually have all the time when I'm talking to business owners about getting them funded, how much money do you make a year? Do you believe about 98% of the time they can't give me a number down to the T? 'Cause-
Yeah, because they're so proud about, well, in the UK, and I'm sure it's similar over there, they've given their accountant the brief that, hey, I want to minimize tax.
Mhm.
So yeah, they'll pay themselves the base salary, and then they'll take the rest out through dividends, and they'll take benefits through their organization. So they're not clear on, they're not paying themselves a proper salary. They're taking money out of the business, but they're not clear on what they're getting. Yeah, that's international, that one.
Oh, yeah, it happens over here all the time. And then it rolls into the next question is, okay, so you want to sell the business for X. Tell me why, right? How much money do you need to survive on? What are you taking out of the business? Well, if you tell me you're only taking 40,000 out of the year, but your trips are coming out of the business, the jets on the business, the yachts, the planes, everything across the board, it's a hell of a lot more than 40,000 a year. So they have to do something within a 2 to 3 year span to get the valuation up, to get them close to the number that they need to continue to live on.
Well, it's always the gotcha, isn't it, for them? Because you
Mhm.
say, okay, if I'm going to buy your business from you, how much do I need to pay someone to do the job that you're doing? And they'll say 100. And you go, but you told me you're only paying yourself 40. So I've got to make allowances to the profit of the business to pay someone 100. So that's going to eat into your valuation. Wait, what? Well, that's how it works. Like if I'm buying it as a going concern, I don't want to work in it. And I need to know what the ongoing revenue profile looks like. And I'm not buying a job. I'm buying a business. I can get a job and get 40 grand a year job elsewhere anytime doing anything, and without all the responsibilities and burden. Why do I want to do that? So
How do you feel about timing when selling a business? I'm a big believer in sell when you can, not when you have to.
well, if you're selling a business because you have to, and often that is because they're stressed to the max, right? And they're stressed to the max because the business is consuming all of their hours, and it's not making money, and it's not healthy. So it's not the sort of business anyone wants to buy. So you've got all that pressure on top of, I have to sell it because I'm stressed and I'm maxed and I've got to get out. It's a fire sale. So yeah, I totally agree with that sentiment. Like if you get the business to the point where I talk to clients that are going, let's get the business ready, because you keep telling me, Mr. Client, that you want to get your business to the point where you attract buyers coming to you. That they're going to come to you and tap you on the shoulder because they've heard wonderful things about your business, and they're going to make you an offer you can't refuse. Now, when they tell me that, I go, what does that offer need to look like? Because you say the business is always for sale. What's the right number? Oh, well, I don't know. I don't know till I see it. I go, well,
Nobody knows.
help yourself here. What is the number? Because I might have someone in mind. And then they go, if you get the business to the point where if someone tapped you on the shoulder and did make that offer, when they come in and start looking under the covers and doing some due diligence and going, let me see if this business really looks like what you told me it looks like, will they run and head for the hills, or will they go, damn, it's exactly how he said it was? How good is that? That removes all the stress from you as an owner when you've got your business in that state. it actually makes you a better leader for the business and you make better decisions. And you've got that catch. Well, it's not catch 22. What's the positive side of a catch 22? It puts yourself in a really good position that you don't want to sell it either. So you're in a great place.
There's a big problem over here in the States. We have a lot of baby boomers. The generation over here is retiring, and they have no exit strategy, no legacy plans. So the topic of mergers and acquisitions is all the rage these days on the internet, how to buy businesses with no money down, how to take things over. So you have a
Yep.
lot of people out there that have no experience, and they've taken one of these online courses, and basically what they've done is they started calling themselves private equity firms, right?
Yep.
So they call themselves a private equity firm. They get a business owner. They make them an offer, but they make them sign paperwork where they can't disclose anything or talk to anybody about this. This is literally being taught on the internet how to do this, right? And then, okay, I'll give you $3 million for your business. Is that okay? Yeah, I'll take $3 million for the business. But they drag the deal on 8,
Yep.
12, 18 months. During this time frame, a lot of business owners think they have an offer, right? Because they've never been through this before.
Yes.
So what tends to happen is they take their foot off the gas in the business.
Yep.
They're going out and they're spending that money before it's even in the bank account. And then by month 18, they're going to get a phone call. Yeah, we can't do this. The quality of earnings were not good enough, right? Now, this guy's wife, they make him miss birthday dinners, fly to meetings, go here, go there, travel all around the country just because this guy thinks he's really selling his business. And they pull everything out at the 25th hour from him. And they go, we can't buy it at this price of $3 million. And the guy's, already gone. He's out of the business. The business is actually probably diminishing during that time frame because he's taking his foot off the gas. And then they come back and they give him a really low ball offer. And what winds up happening 8 times out of 10 is they take that offer because they're already mentally gone from that business.
And what you're highlighting there is the importance for business owners. If you're only going to sell you one business in your life, you want to get it right. And the way to get it right is to surround yourself with a good team. And, a good team is the right, investment banker. It's the right tax guy. It's the right, the right deals guy. It's getting the exit planning. It's preparing and getting it ready for 1 or 2 years or even longer in advance. If you're thinking that you're a business owner and you're a smart cookie because you've built the business up to 2, 3, 5, 10 million in revenue over the last 20 years, you've done a great job at building a business. But selling a business is it's a brand new industry for you.
Sure.
So you're only going to do it once. It's going to be the biggest payday of your life. You can either get out and have the pinnacle of your career, or if you're going to mess it up, it's going to feel like a messy divorce. And you only get one shot at it.
Darryl, in your experience, Darryl, how often is the ideal solution right under the business owner's nose? Maybe a key personnel, or maybe a foreman if it's a trades. Maybe there's someone in-house, or it could be even a direct competitor. Maybe that's the ideal exit strategy.
And these are all things that we look at. And one of the things that is probably worth touching on in the UK since 2014, they introduced an attractive option to sell the business to your employees through an employee ownership trust. And it's kind of like an ESOP on steroids. The terms are you can sell it capital gains tax free. You got to meet some criteria. You have to sell to get the capital gains tax free. You have to sell a controlling stake. You only get one shot of it. So you either sell 50% or 100% in the first instance, right? So it sells to the employees. You sell it to a trust. So the trust runs it on behalf of the employees. The employees are beneficiaries of the trust. What's happened, because it's attractive tax-wise, what I'm seeing a lot of businesses doing is they're taking their business to market. They're not getting any interest. They're unable to sell it after a year or two. And they're going, oh my God, I can't sell it to anyone else. I'll sell it to the employees. They don't have to ask the employees. They can just do it. All of a sudden it's an employee. Exactly. All of a sudden it's an employee-owned business. Now, the risks that they have is instead of a 2 or 3 year earn-out period, they've now got a 5 to 7 year earn-out period because it's vendor funded. It's the future profits of the business that pay because the employees aren't putting their hands in their pocket. So it's the future profits of the business that pay the business owner out, which means that they now have to hang around because they didn't do any proper succession planning. They now have to hang around for the 5 or 7 years to make sure that they get their money. Does it make sense? So I'm going, look, an employee ownership, I'm not against employee ownership. I think it's a great strategy if it's the right strategy. But if you're going to go down employee ownership, do all of your planning up front and work your earn out period while you still own the business rather than someone else. And that way you get to do it on your terms. And if you do it right, you do your planning right, you can hand it over to the management because often this came from you saying, how often is the exit option under your nose? Often managers and don't want to take the risk of buying and taking funds to buy your business. Sometimes they do with PE. But so you can hand it over to the employees. If you do your training, get your succession planning up front, they're ready and willing to go. And that way you can step out of the business. You don't have to stay in the business and keep running it just to make sure you're going to get your money. So it can be a good option if done right. Unfortunately, a lot of people are still doing it where they've gone, it's my last ditch option. I'll sell it to the employees. And we're starting to see a number of them go bust now because they haven't been properly planned or managed.
That's interesting.
Which is a real shame.
Over here in the States, the Small Business Administration, the SBA, actually changed the laws about the rules, not the laws, excuse me, about 18 months ago. And if you have an employee in the business, the employee can buy the business from you with zero money down, and you can get a check from the SBA.
So, really?
We've done a handful of these deals, partner buyouts, employee buyouts. You can even go into, if it's in the same industry, let's say construction to construction. I own a construction firm. I want to buy a competitor. I can go in there and put you can put as little as 10% down to buy that business through an SBA note if the other company can actually handle the debt service. So you can double the size of your business overnight, right? And then increase your valuation if you're looking to sell in 5 to 7 years. So those are some strategies we've been using.
We don't have anything like the SBA in the UK.
Yeah.
Well, you obviously don't have any Xerox copiers. We do. We just keep printing money, buddy.
I have a question for you, and you need to let me know if this is true or not. Have you heard of Dan Pena, the $1 million man who's been teaching mergers and acquisitions? Have you been to the castle?
I have heard of him. I've heard of there's a couple of guys over here that do it as well, and they've got these schools where they train all these up and coming PE company owners how to buy a business with no money down. And I had a chat with him once. Jeremy Harbour was the guy, and I wanted to hate him.
Okay.
And I said, look, the whole reason our business exists is so that business owners don't have to sell to people like you. And he said, fair enough, I get that. And he wasn't offended at all. And we had a really good conversation. And he said, but the reality is, Darryl, business owners aren't planning and they're not preparing their business to be exit. And if I don't come along and buy it, they're not going to sell it at all. So if they sell it to me and I can construct a deal and put a deal together, they've got half a chance of getting out. Now, I think Jeremy was one of the first to start doing this. He's been doing it for a number of years. And he's, let's just say, his pup's got some more integrity than some of the others. I ended up walking away from that conversation being quite impressed with the guy and liked what he was doing. But philosophically, it's still sort of, I couldn't, I've gone, only 20% of business owners get a successful exit. We got to change that. That is avoidable. That is fixable, that number. And, it's got to be 80% have a successful exit and only 20% fail. So, collectively, we've got so much more that we can do to change the outcomes for these people who've been running and building their businesses for most of a big chunk of their lifetime.
No, I agree. Over here in the States, we have Biz Buy Sell, which is the biggest listing platform. Over here, I think the average age of a business broker is probably somewhere around, it was 52. It's probably like 54 or 55 right now. And they just have a lot of older school tactics and they're not used to technology. So what they do is they just drop the listing on Biz Buy Sell. 20% of those businesses only sell also on Biz Buy Sell.
Yeah.
right?
20%. I think that stat comes from the International Business Broking Association. So it's from research done in the States.
Yeah.
Is the last time I saw it. But yeah, like, and I have no reason to believe it's any different over here or even in Australia. You know, it's reinforced by all the brokers and the M&A people I talk to. They'll go, yeah, look, we get people come to us all the time. And I look at the business and I say, I can't sell it. There's nothing, there's no asset there for me to sell. You might have a revenue stream and you might be able to get a mate to buy your client base off you, but you're going to get 5 cents in the dollar type of thing.
Yeah.
So, and you know, and you don't need any formal qualifications to start a business, but yeah. And look, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, I guess, where you had Gerber starting around and going, look, you got to work on your business and not in your business, and he started that message, and even before that. And today, if you talk to most small business owners or business owners, and you go, you got to work on your business, right? They'll go, yeah, 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 yeah. They nod knowingly. They're very familiar with the concept that they need to work on their business and not work in their business. They may not know how to do it, but they're familiar with the concept. Still, unfortunately, if you say to a business owner today, hey, look, if you want to get the most from your life work, if you want to maximize the valuation of your business and exit on your terms, you have to spend 2 or 3 years specifically preparing your business to be exit ready. They go, what? That's a brand new story to them. They don't know that. So we've got to get that message out to the marketplace that if you own a business, there are things you specifically need to do to make it attractive to buyers. So when you're ready to sell, when you want to get out, it's attractive to be bought. You've eliminated the risks to them. I'll get off my soapbox now. That's my preaching.
Listen, I totally agree with you, but I will tell you this. I'm 43, and I know I have friends in my 30s right now that started business. I think the younger generation is doing a better job than the older generation because they're starting businesses with the intention of selling them later on, right? Whereas when you came back from World War II and you started a business here, it was something that you wanted to do for the rest of your life. You never thought about selling it. It's how I provide income, how I put food on the table, how I have a roof over my head. There was no thought about selling it. So I think the message is starting to get through. It's just one of those things on like, how do you teach an old dog new tricks? They don't want to listen.
Look, yeah, I think you're right. It's a generational thing because if that mindset of business owners, baby boomer business owners would build a business for life. That generation also had the attitude is that they'd go and work a job and they'd be employed for life by a specific employer.
Yeah.
Whereas you, me, we've all had a number of jobs and been involved in a number of different companies or already, and yeah, it's just a different mindset. So maybe you're right. Things are changing faster than I give them credit for.
Darryl, I appreciate you being here. I want to be respectful of your time. Can you tell everybody where they can find you and get in touch with you over at Succession Plus, if anybody's listening?
So succession.plus is the website. Now, if you're located in the US, you'll go to our team in the US. Mark Dorman heads up Succession Plus in the US. I head up Succession Plus in the UK. And if you're outside of the US or the UK, you'll probably go to the Australian website, which is where our business started. You can get me on LinkedIn, Darryl Bates-Brownsword. I'm sure you'll put the name in the show notes. There's only one of me in the world. So if you search that name, I'm Googleable. You'll find me on Google. Connect with me on LinkedIn. And what you probably want to do if you're a business owner, wherever you are in the world, and you're thinking, I want to start finding out if my business is sellable. What do I have to do to start that journey? Google the business sellability score. It's on our Succession Plus website it's on the UK website. But if you Google the business sellability score, you'll find an indicator, a scorecard. It'll take you about 5 minutes max to complete. We'll share a report with you, sharing the insights depending on what score you get, and then that'll start you on the educational journey. We'll share some other materials with you as well. But that's probably the best place to get started.
That's awesome. Thank you, Darryl. So, Darryl, last question before we let you run. If you had to purchase one business right now, what industry would it be in?
I wish I had notice of this one. I would, if I was to start a business now, I would think
Not
about
start, not start. Buy a
buy.
business. In what
I would
industry?
want to buy a business that is in an industry that's not going to be affected by AI as much. So maybe even something blue collar trade uh, that is not affected by recessions that people always need. So it's probably going to be some sort of regular solution that they need, commodity that they need, and they know that they need it, buying it again and again and again. Something with a little bit different so that I can scale it and expand it to a wider market and take it to different locations around the world.
Love
So
it.
that's a real nothing answer, isn't it? I haven't been very
So
specific at all.
you're thinking plumbing, HVAC,
Yeah.
something along those lines, home services.
Yeah, so HVAC, that it's changing, it's evolving, but people always need to heat their house or cool their house. How they do it is an evolving technology with green bits and pieces. So yeah, something like that. I had a plumber come to the house the other day. Our boiler had a problem, and they had the apprentice there. And I said, "Good move, lad. AI is not going to affect your role." And he looked at me
Nice.
like he's, "What's this old bugger talking about?"
Darryl, thank you so much for being here. Everybody, that's a wrap. The Liquid Lunch Project. We'll catch you on the next episode.
Thanks for having me, guys. I've really enjoyed it.